This arithmetic mean itself has certain properties. So it is a special average. So because of its easiness in the computation, it has most widely used applications. But if you look into the value of x bar, your x bar is such that when you subtract your x bar from all the values of x and obtain the total will be always equal to 0, and the result will be verified for a frequency case if you do summation of f into x minus x bar. The reason is very much easier. So what we are doing is we are x bar is nothing but the total of x divided by n. You are subtracting the total of x from x and again you are taking the total. So naturally that will lead to 0. So this happens only with respect to x bar and it doesn't happen with respect to other measures like geometric mean, median or mode. Or on the other hand, so if you are observing that you have subtracted the value of x by the number 5.6 and then you are looking into the total and the total has come to be exactly equal to 0, then that indicates that this 5.6 should be necessarily equal to the arithmetic mean of certain data points. So generally we say if you are subtracting x by a and luckily if you get that the total is equal to 0, then we say whatever the value of a you have assumed, that is always equal to x bar. So if this doesn't come out to be 0, then we say x bar is any other number which is different from the value of a. So this is the first property of arithmetic mean. So we define this as sum of deviations of mean from their observations or from its observations. So you have certain set of observations from which you'll compute the mean. Now in the next step, you'll go ahead, you'll subtract all the values of, subtract x bar from all the values of x. And then if you look into the total becomes 0. And since we are using the frequencies to compute x bar here, in the frequency case, you'll not just observe sigma x minus x bar to be 0. It will be summation of f into x minus x bar is equal to 0. Now, before obtaining the total, if you square those deviations, so what are you doing? You are subtracting x bar from every value of x, and then you are squaring, and then you are taking the sum. Then this sum is minimum compared to any such sum. Minimum compared to any such sum or the squared deviations. So that's why we use the sigma x minus x bar x square, x minus x bar whole square in defining the additional measures along with the mean. So you can easily verify that with an example. So let me say I have values 14, 18, 25 and 27. Now you have four observations. So 14 plus 18 plus 25 plus 27 comes to be 84. 84 divided by 4 is 21. So we have x bar is equal to 21 here. So when I subtract x bar from every value, so I'll get minus 7, minus 3, 4, and then 6. And if you look into the total, you have minus 7 minus 3, which is minus 10. Minus 10 plus 4 plus 6 comes out to be 0. Now, before taking the sum, you square those deviations. Before taking the sum, you square those deviations. Minus 1 square is 1, 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16, 6 square is 36. Look into the total. 36 plus 16 plus 9 plus 1 comes out to be 62. Now, try the same thing by replacing this column of x bar by some other number. I can take your own numbers. Let me take 18 itself. So if I subtract every value by 18, I'll get minus 4. I'll get 0, 25 minus 18, 7. And this is 9. If you look into the total, 9 plus 7, 16. 16 minus 4 is 12. So it is completely different from 0. So you can check this by taking any value. You can take 0, you can take 100, you can take 25, 14, any of these x values. So pick any number other than 21 your total will be non-zero. Now look into its square, x minus 18 whole square. The 4 square 16, 0, 49 and 81. So it comes somewhat to 146 or 136 or 146, which is usually larger than this number. So we say the sum of square deviations become minimum when you take the deviation from x bar. So statistically we indicate or we call this difference as deviation. Deviation meaning how far the value of x bar is from x, or how close the value of x bar is from x. And this far and close, when you look into the squared case, that usually becomes the distance. So you are actually capturing the total of distance. So distance is a mathematical concept. So you know the distance formula, x2 minus x1 whole square into y2 minus y1 whole square, the square. So that is usually the distance. Now we are obtaining that for each and every point by replacing the other point by x bar and keeping all such set data points. Then we are actually obtaining the total of the distance. And whenever you have the concept of total of any quantity, the average of that quantity can be easily defined. So we can define the sum of the square deviations, and if you divide that by n, you can have the average of the square deviations. You can take the square root of that. So you can have functions of your x bar. So you're using x bar in defining some other measures which capture other behavioral properties observed in the table. So this is about arithmetic mean and its computation and its properties for various cases. For the sake of examination, you have to deal or look into all the concepts related to arithmetic mean. And in the first PUC book, what you have downloaded, the things are in chapter 5. So go through the introductory part. So it covers what is central tendency, why do we need them, what are the various measures, and there are various methods of calculating arithmetic mean, of which I have used the direct way, that is sigma x by n, sigma fx by sigma f. The book covers various other aspects of other formulas related to mean, but whatever the type of formula you use, it leads to the same answer, and this method of computing mean is called as direct method. So if you have interest, you can look into certain other indirect methods available in the book, but it's not a compulsory case. So we'll see. So question paper sareenadru indirect methods bandidre, we'll just look into that cases. Otherwise, those things are not required. Next measure is median. Now, as said, the disadvantages of arithmetic mean is that if you have the presence of extreme value, the extreme value deviates or influences the value of x bar. So we should come up with a measure in the situations where we have extreme values. We cannot omit the extreme values from the data set, but I have to quantify it by a single number. In those cases, we talk about the measures called as median as well as mode. This value median is defined as the middlemost value in the ordered data. Middlemost value in the ordered data set. So you have to arrange the data values in an order and then pick up the middlemost value. So when you have the raw data, so you will be given with certain set of observations. So you write it in the increasing order, say x1, x2, increasing order, and then come up with the middle number. So when we indicate these subscripts in the brackets, that indicates that x1 is the smallest, x2 is the second smallest of the data. So really ex1 ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. By chance they could be same also. So you need not worry about the notations. I try not to confuse you with certain complex notations. So you have been given with certain set. So we create what called as an array, and we write the values of x in the increasing order. And then once you have the values in the increasing order, pick the middle number. That middle number becomes your median. But if you look into the objective of the central tendency, measure of central tendency, we say it should be based on all values. But here we are ignoring the other values of x and we are just picking the middle number. Now, if your n is odd, you can easily capture a single value for the middle number. But when your n is even, you end up getting two numbers in the middle, and we define median in that case as the sum of those two divided by 2. So take the average in case of even. So what are the steps in finding the median? Median definition is it is defined as the middlemost data in the distribution, middlemost point in the distribution. How will you pick that middle value? If you have been given with raw data, first arrange them in the increasing order and then pick the middle value. You might ask me why increasing order, why not decreasing order? Picking the middle number either from the right side or the left side when you have arranged the data is the same. But when we look into the other measures, there is a requirement for increasing order only. So that's why even for median, to maintain that uniformity, we say arrange the values in the increasing order. If you have the data given to you where you have the discrete frequency distribution, where you have x and f values, in that case, the first step in computation of the median is computing the value of LCF, and in this case median is defined as median is equal to the value of x. Median is the value of x with LCF just greater than n by 2. Median is the value of x with LCF just greater than n by 2, where n is nothing but your total frequency. So I have to pick the value of LCF. So let me show how it works. So if you have discrete data points like 2, 4, 6, 9, and 13, they are repeated for certain number of cases. We say these are the frequencies. And the first step is computing LCF. So know how to compute the less than cumulative frequencies. The first value remains the same 6, then 6 plus 8, 14, 14 plus 10, 24, plus 11, 35, 38. So you have the total values given to you as 38. So first step computing LCF, second step computing n by 2. Now n is 38, 38 by 2 comes to be 90 here. So pick the LCF which is just greater than 19. There are several values in the LCF which will be above 19, but pick the immediate greatest one. So immediate larger value to 19 in the column of LCF is 24 and the respective value of x is 6. Therefore, we say median is equal to 6. So there is no formula for the computation. It is just logically defined as middlemost value, and that is one of the major demerit. It is not very well defined with a mathematical formula, and it is not based on all the values. If you look into the x bar, it is using all the values, all the information given by each and every data point is considered. You will consider 2, 4, 6, 9, 13, their frequencies. You will compute, or you will, bring out those data points by quantifying sigma f x, sigma f, and you use it to compute the value of x bar. But here you are just using frequencies for the sake of LCF, and you are just picking the value 6. You are ignoring 2, 4, 9, and 13. Therefore, we say median is a measure which is not based on all the values. It is just picking the middle number. So don't make the mistake in picking the middle number by looking at the values of x, because at certain cases 6 might not be the middle number because we have frequencies. So what is this frequency distribution actually telling you? That you have the original data where you have 2 repeated 6 times, 4 repeated 8 times, 6 repeated 10 times, 9 repeated 11 times, and then 13 repeated 3 times. So this is your larger data set. So in this, you are picking the middle number. So in this particular case, you are observing 6 in the middle of the column of x, as well as 6 is the middle value. But in certain cases, so as I said, it is all based on your frequencies. As the frequency changes, the position of the middle number changes. And this is the method of obtaining that. And when it comes to the continuous frequency distribution, the median is obtained from the ogives. So we have the less than ogive, we have less than ogive, and we know how to obtain the median. So we say median is the middlemost value. So we have n by 2 on the value x in the y-axis. So first draw the ogive, compute the value of n by 2, draw a straight line from n by 2 till it touches the ogive. From the point of intersection, draw a value line to x-axis, perpendicular line, and whatever the point you observe, the point of intersection of the vertical and the horizontal x-axis, that value is said to be your median. So the question is, do we have to always construct ogive when we have been given with class interval and frequency data? The question is no, because at certain times, calculating, or as far as, by making some marginal error, if I could estimate the value without, constructing the graph, I could actually obtain that. So what we do is, we have the class interval where this median belongs to, and we only consider the ogive in that class interval, and just by concentrating on this part, assuming that the ogive is actually a straight line forming the right angles with respect to the limits, we derive the formula for median. So we need not worry about the derivation. So the derivation leads to the formula of median to be equal to L plus n by 2 minus Cf by f into h. Formula. Well, let's start. What are these? L is the lower limit of median class. So first I have to identify the median class, lower limit of median class, and then n is the total frequency, Cf is the LCF of previous class, f is the class frequency of median class, and then h is the class width of median class. So everything is based on the median class, and we define median class as the class interval with LCF just greater than n by 2. So median class is class interval where median lies, class interval where median lies, and it is the class interval with LCF just greater than n by 2. And these are the computational steps. So to compute the value of LCF, compute the value of n by 2, pick the class interval which has LCF greater than n by 2. So when you pick the class interval, you can get the lower limit of that class interval, the frequency of the class interval, as well as the class width of the class interval. N is the total frequency. Identify the LCF of the previous class to the class interval. So whatever the median class you have identified, pick the previous frequency of the previous LCF of that particular distribution, and then substitute those values here and evaluate the median. So I said this is only based on the assumption that our ogive is a straight line when we are looking into that particular class interval. So it is just based on that assumption, but in reality the ogive is actually not a straight line. So this gives you the closest possible answer for the actual median. But when you look back into the data from where the frequency distribution is constructed, so have certain raw data, right? From the raw data, you are preparing the frequency distribution. So whenever you compute the measures, making certain assumptions on this, the measure may be far away from the actual value. But in your syllabus, these cases are already included, and since the question paper will be not set by a statistician like me, it will be framed by a person who have enough knowledge on statistics. So they don't know actually why this formula has come, what is the logic behind this, what is the assumption behind this. And if you look into the practical applications, none of the statisticians or data analysts are using certain techniques which are, based on the assumptions. As said, if you violate the assumption, if it is not true, your measure becomes a useless measure. So that's why, as far as possible, the data analysts stick to the original data. So the question why these methods have come up, why we follow certain methods here. The methods have, the result of the orthodox culture, what we have followed. And also, when you look back into the days where the calculators and the computers were, any common person could not afford in purchasing the calculators, or much of the super fast computers were unavailable. So in those days, the calculations were to be done manual, and in order to reduce the calculation time, certain methods were developed, and certain people blindly still follow those methods. I suggest you that whenever you are doing any research work in the coming semesters, you always use statistical softwares or basic softwares like say MS Excel, where it becomes easy to handle the raw data. Raw data volume ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕಷ್ಟ ಅಂತ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಬಂದಿರೋದು. ಯಾವಾಗ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ the cases in the days where dealing such large data was manually impossible. But nowadays everybody has access to the computers and laptops, scientific calculators, so you can easily use the raw data only to come with the measures. Just for the sake of presentation, you could use frequency distribution and graphs, but when you talk about computing the measures and generalizing those measures, always use the original data. Okay, so this is about the concept median. We'll look into the problems, but even on the example problem marks again, I know, and for certain cases, I'm not at all talking about any example problems. So I said I have shared an exercise, so we'll look into the problems on the exercise and we'll understand the computational steps better. And the next measure available is mode. Mode is simply defined as the most repeated value. In certain cases, you will observe that the data has lesser range, but much of the repetitions are there. So ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಸಲ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಅದನ್ನ average ಇಂದ ಕ್ವಾಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕಷ್ಟ. And if you look into the special cases where your variable is only discrete, you cannot quantify that in terms of continuous cases, like say shoe size, your dress size, and then the bed size, accessory size. Then you're talking about the people, majority people, or the majority gender. And then if you're talking about the taste preference. So at certain cases, averaging or median doesn't help you. So there are cases, certain variables like this, where your x bar, your m cannot help you. Cannot help you in the sense you have the values of x, you can come up with certain answer for x bar and m, but they doesn't actually represent the values. They cannot be used to quantify the values. So let me show how. So if you look into the shoe size of men, adult men, so you'll have values like say 8, 9, or maybe 8, 9. So if you visit a particular store and extract the data on, give me the shoe size taken by say men of age above 18 or above 20, and if you extract the data, so very rarely you will observe value 7 or 6. So much of the cases will be 10, 9, 8, 11, 9. So when you look into the case here and tell me what is the average size of shoe sold per month, average size of shoe, and if you use x bar, you can come up with an answer like say 10.56 or 9.12, etc. But no company is manufacturing the size with shoes 10.56, 9.15. So you cannot say the average shoe size is 10.56, 9.1. Whenever we talk about the average in certain cases, we talk about the most cases, which is the most sold shoe when it comes to the shoe size of men above 18, which is the most sold dress when it comes to this. You can observe it. So when you go to purchase the trousers or jeans pants, and when you look into the cases of size say 28, 29, 30, 31, this is the, you know, most preferred size of shoe in most of the men at, you know, certain age cases. So when you have a particular sale or when a particular new commodity has come, you will you will observe that the sales are the demand is very high in that case. So you can say the average size is 28 inches or 30 inches. So when you have variables like this, the concept of mode comes into picture. And mode is just based on the definition. I mean, the identification of mode is by trial and error. So observe the data and see which is most repeated. So I have 9 repeated for 6 cases, 10 repeated for 5 cases. So the most repeated is 9. Therefore, we say mode is equal to 9. And this mode is indicated by the symbol Z. So we say mode is equal to 9. If you further extend your data and collect few more observations, you could observe that 10 is repeated compared to 9. In that case, you can say 10 is the mode. So it is all based on how many data points you are observing. And certain cases could be such that you will have both the values as mode. So 9 is also repeated the same number of times, 10 is also repeated for the same number of times. In that case, we say mode is 9 as well as 10. So there could be the cases for distribution where many modes exist, or your distribution could be such that no mode exists. So this could often happen in the data. So that's why we say mode is less preferred by the people. But when your study is based on this, like say if you want to come across what is the most likely age of the people committing suicide. So majority you observe that in the case of teenagers. So maybe age group is equal to 16. So in which age maximum suicides are happening? So in that case, your concept, your average suitable average there is mode, and the number of thefts occurred. So which is the maximum number of case there? Again, you are talking about the average there. So certain cases, certain variables are there where mean, median are not suitable. In that case, you can talk about median. So by the definition of mode, we have observed that if you have any such data, you are observing the one which is most repeated. So even in the case of non-numerical data, so if you have qualitative data, like say you want to come up with the average gender observed in a, say, in a particular mall at a particular time, or uh, what you call as a footfall, what is the average footfall on the Hedalaga, you can use the concept of mean. So per day around 16 people, or say 160 people, or 165.5 people comes in the cases. But when you're dealing with qualitative data where you are only talking about the gender of the person, so again that could be quantified using the average. So if you're talking about the case where you have collected the data on the gender, so which is the most frequently observed gender? So here it is F. So you can say the average Z is equal to F. Therefore, mode is suitable even in case of qualitative data. So we have understood the 3 major measures, mean, median, mode, and even for a discrete frequency data, it is very simple. Look into the definition. What is definition? Mode is the most repeated value. So if you have the most repeated value, its frequency will be high. Naturally, so even a new frequency distribution I convert ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, you will have X and F. So you have the possible values like say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. So if you look into the count of 9, that will be large. So in case of discrete frequency distribution, we define mode as the value of X with large F. So don't pick the maximum value. I'm not talking about maximum and minimum of X. We are talking about the most repeated value. So pick the highest frequency, select the respective value of X, that is your mode. Now when it comes to the class interval data, so as said, we have to take the help of the graphical procedures, because just by looking to the frequency, we cannot be sure which particular value is exactly repeated in the data. And I said most of the times mode will be ill-defined. The data could be such that there are no values repeated, but yet I want to obtain a numerical value which I can call as mode. In that case, graphical procedures helps us, and the graph which helps in obtaining the mode is called as histogram. And we have learned how to construct the histogram and how to obtain the mode. So we'll select the tallest frequency, tallest bar, because tallest bar is the bar with respect to the largest frequency. And just by the definition of mode, we have somewhat made a notion that highest frequency indicates the presence of mode. Therefore, we select the class with highest frequency. So when I have highest frequency, I'll have certain limits there, L and U. So I have this frequency F. So this is the bar. So usually we obtain the corner points and the points of intersection of the tallest bar. We join the points opposite corners, and then we draw a straight line from the point of intersection to x-axis, and we obtain the value of mode. And if I apply the mathematical techniques of straight right angles, and if I use sine and cos functions, I could come up with a formula for z, and that is z is equal to L plus f1 minus f0 divided by 2f1 minus f0 minus f2 into h. So we usually talk about three cases here. So why? Because we are using the tallest bar, and also we are into the point of intersection of the adjacent bars. And if you look at the adjacent bar, the one below or behind the tallest, the one succeeding the tallest. So we are talking about the previous class interval of the highest frequency as well as the successive class interval of the highest frequency. So we select this highest frequency as F1, and we take the class interval of that is called as your modal class. Modal class is the class where the mode lies. We take the previous frequency as F0, the succeeding frequency as F2. So I have to identify F0, F1 and F2. F1 under the highest frequency. Highest frequency indicates the presence of mode. L is the lower limit of that, and H is the class width of that distribution, that frequency, that class interval. So compute your H, observe L, observe F1, H0, F2, substitute them here and obtain the value of mode. Now at times where we say there are two highest frequency, or in most of the cases the frequencies are very low, so selecting 3 or 4 or 5 to be highest doesn't help you. And as I said, these cases work very well when you have larger data, and in the cases where we say there is no mode, or you cannot come up with the single value of mode, in that case we say mode is ill-defined. So in most of the cases this happens. So there are many modes, or there is no mode. In that case we say mode is ill-defined. The reason is that if you want to look into the application of mode, selecting the value becomes difficult. Now there are various measures, various applications of these measures what we are talking. So for that a single value is required, but mode is such a measure, it can take multiple values. So in that case, accessing a single value becomes difficult, and in that case you can use the formula that mode is equal to 3 times median minus 2 times mean, and this is called as empirical relation between mean, median and mode. So use this whenever you feel that there is no mode, there is no single value for mode. In that case, compute mean, compute median, use the formula 3 times of median minus 2 mean to compute the value of mode. So this is about the 3 basic measures of central tendency which we use. Now coming to the other 2 case, so I'll just give you the definition, and we'll just look into 1 or 2 problems, but will not look into much details there. They are used for specific purposes. So we'll look into GM, but definitely not HM. So if you're talking about say rates, ratios, percentages, or if you're talking about growth values, growth rates, population growth, index numbers, in such cases, arithmetic mean doesn't help you much. So as said, arithmetic mean gets affected by extreme values, and when you talk about the growth values, you talk about exponential growth. Exponential growth, andre in less time the population will increase. So in such cases, we say we have very small values with respect to the population, very large values with respect to the population. Therefore, there is presence of extreme value. So your X bar doesn't help much in this case. And similarly, when you talk about rates and ratios, you will have values, very less in terms of magnitude, like say 5% growth rate, or rate of interest is say 0.3% or 6%. So the values are actually in terms of decimals, very low values. And certain cases, the value could be as high as say 40%, 50%. In that case, again, we are talking about the situation where we have extreme values. So the cases where your data is your X is actually rate of certain characteristic percentage index number growth. In that case, we use the concept of geometric mean. Why geometric mean? What geometric mean? Why not arithmetic mean? As said, my AM is such that it treats every value equally. Every value of X is equal. It doesn't discriminate between small and large value. Whereas the definition of geometric mean is such that your GM discriminates the values. So it gives high importance to low values and low importance to high values. So it somewhat balances the entire data, though you have the presence of the extreme value. And the definition of geometric mean is nth root of product of your n observations. So nth root, it could be square root, cube root, fourth root, 10th root, 12th root, depends on how many observations you have. Say for example, if you have just two values, say X is equal to 16 and 18, then GM of these two numbers is actually square root of 18 into 16. On the other hand, if you have three values, say X is equal to 1, 8 and 6, then GM of these three values will be cube root of 1 into 8 into 6. So by looking the definition, you can understand the difficulty in obtaining the value of geometric mean. So for 2, 3, 4 cases, if you sit and work out and if you use the calculator, you can compute the value. But if your n is very large, like say if you have 12 observations, 15 observations, then computing the fifth root of the product of such cases becomes difficult. And moreover, if you look into the product, your calculator also fails to give you the answers. Though you have say two-digit numbers like 15, 16, 18, if you have such 20 numbers, the product becomes very large and calculators fail to give answer. So in that case, we apply the mathematical concepts. We use the logarithms, and by applying the logarithms, we can compute geometric mean. And for raw data, the geometric mean formula is given by antilog of sigma log x divided by n. And for frequency, both discrete as well as continuous, the geometric mean formula is antilog. It is similar to your arithmetic mean. Arithmetic mean ಗೆ ಬರೀ sigma x ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ you are using sigma log x. So therefore frequency we set sigma fx. So here we'll say sigma f into log x divided by total frequency, and it's antilog. So if they define geometric mean, explain geometric mean, you can define it as nth root of product of n observations. And for the discrete frequency distribution, it is the nth root of the product of observations, but the observations are raised to the their powers